गुरुर् ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुर् साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. This shlok means that Guru is God, means teacher is God. The teacher is given here the place of God. The three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. These are the supreme god of Indian mythology. Now, as we are talking about teacher, let's talk about the greatest teacher, Guru Dronacharya. In the epic Mahabharata, Drona or Dronacharya or Guru Drona or Rajguru Dev Drona was a third incarnation of Lord Brahma. He was the royal teacher of Kauravas and Pandavas, an avatar of Bhishma Pitama. He was a great teacher, so he also made great students. As he taught the Pandavas and the Kauravas. From the Pandavas, Arjuna was his favorite student. Arjuna was a great archer. Guru Dronacharya trained him very well and made him the world's best archer. Once Guru Dronacharya and Pandavas were going in jungle for hunting, and they had a dog with them. Suddenly the dog hears something and runs into the jungle. Guru Dronacharya and the Pandavas start searching for the dog. After some time, the dog returns with a bunch of arrows in his mouth. But there was no single drop of blood falling from his mouth. Just the dog was not able to bark, but he was all healthy. Everyone was shocked seeing this level of archery, as Arjuna has also not done this before. They go inside the jungle, and there they find a tribal boy practicing archery. Guru Dronacharya, seeing his accuracy and his dedication towards archery, gets surprised and goes towards him and asks him who is he and how can he do such good archery. Then Eklavya sees behind and he gets surprised seeing Guru Dronacharya asking him the questions. Eklavya bow down and give respect to Guru Dronacharya. Guru Dronacharya then asks, "Who are you?" Eklavya then says, "I am the old tribal boy who came to you once, but you rejected me to teach, saying that I am from low caste, and you denied me to teach." Then Guru Dronacharya remembers this and says, "Oh, you are that boy," and then asks him, "Who is your guru now? Who is your teacher?" Then Eklavya replies, "You are my teacher. That day you denied me, but in my mind, in my heart, I thought you as my teacher, and I made your idol and practice in front of it every day, and now I am a great archer." Guru Dronacharya was surprised seeing Eklavya's dedication towards him and archery. He was very surprised, but Guru Dronacharya only taught to prince or the royal people, and Eklavya was a tribal. He was a lower class person, so Guru Dronacharya denied him to teach anything. But Guru Dronacharya was very intelligent. He taught Arjuna very good, but he was nothing in front of Eklavya. So Guru Dronacharya asked Eklavya that you taught me as your teacher, right? So now you should give me your Guru Dakshina. Guru Dakshina means fees of tuition. Guru Dronacharya was very intelligent and he asked Eklavya for Guru Dakshina, and in Guru Dakshina he asks for his right hand thumb. Eklavya was surprised. He says, "Then how I will do archery if I give you the thumb?" But Guru Dronacharya says, "No, this is my Guru Dakshina and you should give it to me." So Eklavya, without thinking anything, chopped off his thumb and gave it to Guru Dronacharya. Now Eklavya was not able to do archery, but days passed, months passed, years passed. After many days, when there was the war of Mahabharata, that time they seen Eklavya. Arjuna then sees him and gets shocked, because without thumb also Eklavya was the same accurate and powerful. It is said that the modern archery, it was discovered by Eklavya. See this picture. In this, for archery the thumb is needed. This is the old style of archery, but in the modern style there is no thumb needed. You can see in this new picture that there is no thumb needed for the archery. This is the modern style of archery. As you see, thumb was very important for archery, but now it is not that important. So Eklavya didn't have the thumb. He didn't lose hope. He learned the new technique of archery, and he was one of the best archers in that time. Hello friends, myself Ashish Kundu from Group 4 Subgroup 1. Now you would be thinking that why is this story here, as this is the class of pedagogy, and why is this story? So, as we seen in the last video, what is pedagogy? Pedagogy is the technique of teaching and learning, right? So, in this story, we can see Guru Dronacharya. He is a teacher, and his students, an indirect student means a non-traditional student and traditional student. Who are traditional? The Pandavas and the Kauravas are the traditional students, and the Eklavya, who is non-traditional student. Now we will see about non-traditional students and their learning. So non-traditional students are the students which are of age 24 and more, and they have, because of some problems, they are not able to complete their secondary school. A non-traditional student is a term originating in North America. The National Center of Education Statistics notes that there are various definitions of non-traditional students. The National Center of Education Statistics defines non-traditional students as meeting one of the 7 characteristics. The 7 characteristics are as follows. First, attends college part-time. Second, work full-time. Third, delay enrollment into post-secondary education. Fourth, financial independent for financial aid purpose. Fifth, has dependent other than us suppose. Sixth, is single parent. Seventh, does not have a high school's diploma. So now let's see how a student becomes non-traditional student. Because of some problems, he is not able to study further, or he complete his secondary education and get his secondary school diploma. So then he gets elder and elder. He gets his age increased. So he has the pressure of his family, his jobs, the society and all. So he gets depressed and all. So he is not able to focus on his studies. For this, we have some of the schools like night school, or they do part-time school or part-time job to see their family as well as their study. Now, as you see in this pie chart, the traditional and non-traditional students. The traditional students make 42% of all education system, and non-traditional students make the 58%. So you can see non-traditional students are more, and in non-traditional students there are 38% students who are bachelor, and 38% who are associates, and 24% students who are certified and don't get job or higher education, so they are jobless. In traditional students, there are 72% of bachelors, 6% of certified, and 22% of associates. 72% bachelors means they are in progress, so they are studying, and this all makes 100% of education system in India, or we can say in all over the world. There is a fact that 59% of non-traditional students hold a full-time job, means they cannot pay more attention towards their education and colleges, so they don't attend colleges, rather they do jobs, which can be because of their family condition or because of his age. Next is, about 1 in the 3 students of the student aged 18 to 29 currently have student loan debt, means they take loan for studying. So there are more consequences for a non-traditional student. So let's see what are they. So now Gita will explain you about the consequences of non-traditional student.
Myself Gita, I will explain you the consequences faced by non-traditional students. The first consequence is balancing financial obligation. The second one is learning to use modern technologies. The third one is finding time to work and study. Fourth one is balancing family commitments. The fifth one is having self-confidence to be successful. And the last one is becoming a first generation student. Now I will explain you all these consequences. The first one is balancing financial obligations. Now in society we know there are rich peoples, poor peoples and middle peoples. So some students who are rich, they take admission directly by giving money, but the students who are not rich, they struggle a lot to get admission. Then due to their struggle their age also increases. So at last, if they find any college, then they study as non-traditional student. The second one is learning to use modern technology. So as we know, rich parents give each and everything the child wants. They give them laptop, phones at so early age that they learn how to use them. So the rich students have much knowledge about technology as they get in their home, but in poor students as they do not get such technology, so they remain backwards when they come in college to learn. So it becomes hard for the poor people or poor students to learn the new technologies. Now the third one is finding time to work and study. So in Asian countries there are many big families. So if a non-traditional student has a big family, then there is many work to do for him, as he has to feed his family and also has to study, and so he faces many problems. So he faces problems like he has very less time to study because he has to feed his large family and thus has to work a lot. Now the fourth one is balancing family commitments. In underdeveloped or developing countries, parents expect more from their learning students for car, home, to earn money and become a rich and form a good place in a society. So these commitments burden the student and make him depressed. The fifth one is having self-confidence to be successful. If a student fail in an exam more than 2 times, then he loses his confidence, and also due to age he faces depression and he cannot be successful person. So we should have self-confidence to be a successful person. The last one is becoming a first generation student. In Asian countries, there are many families who have not passed the diploma or have not gone to the school. So these families like their children to study and have a good life. But for a non-traditional student, if his age is more, it becomes a burden on him as he is the first generation student. And if he is unsuccessful, then it will be a shame for him and his family. So he faces depression and many more problems as compared to a traditional student. So from this, I think that non-traditional students face many problems than the traditional ones.
Hello everyone. My friend spoke about non-traditional learning and education. From there, I'd like to continue. Nowadays, in developed countries, there has been a surge of medical students who do not come from school directly. They give a gap in their education and then come, and also there are few students who do not come to the universities of medical institutions with proper required prerequisites for getting admitted into the university. There often has been noticed that there are problems in this kind of scenarios in some cases. For example, a mature student may not be having that attitude towards life and towards his elder, in this case towards teacher. When he is told to do something and he adapts to the situation and does the task as asked accordingly by the teacher, because there are times when he thinks that he is not a kid anymore and he behaves in a mature way, which is not necessary, because a learning process has to be at many times to be followed blindly as asked by the teacher, because there is no additional thinking required, because the teacher is well qualified in his job and he asks the student to work likely. And since a student has come to learn something from the teacher and from the institution, to be specific in medical institution, the student needs to learn. He has to forget everything that he's learned earlier or from his practical experiences in the outside world, and learn the knowledge is provided to him, imparted to him by the teacher. But it might not always happen so. Now these problems can also be said that this ill-mannered or ill-formed attitude is because of an adulthood gained by the student. But it is not always so, and it can also be corrected with positive environment of learning, and a well-informed and right-minded teacher can always deal with this kind of situation. Another issue is students from different cultural backgrounds. Now it has always seen usually nowadays that in the Western institution, bulk of Asian students coming and joining the institution.
educate themselves. But on the other hand, while we see the Western way of learning mainly focuses on deep rooted learning, in deep understanding of the subject matter, which is not true in Asian students, but rather the Asian students have a way of rote learning, or in other words, simply rephrasing or rereading the words up to a certain extent that they mug up the entire material, and they would be able to recite or rewrite it whenever asked without even looking at it. Now, this is a way of compensating the lack of knowledge or deep-rooted understanding, which usually comes handy. And it has also been seen that Asian students with this capacity are sometimes able to perform better than the Western students, and they also have received prizes and nominations for better performance. Next point is older students, how they perform with respect to traditional students. Older students are the students who have good understanding about everything, usually, and they might also perform good with the batch of the students they are studying with. But sometimes it might not be so. They turn out to be bullies and just copying others' work and pretend that they are good students. Older students might also score better than other students because of deep understanding and time management. But again, it might not be true so, because they might simply bully their way and copy from other studious students which are below his age. Older students are generally similar on basis of their ability, but it might not also be always same because they are already old. It sometimes happens that a dull student repeats and then comes to an institution at an older age. Older students are no different in preference in instructional styles. Now we talk about the various aspects of the universe of non-traditional students.
The subsets are isolation, lack of social network, part-time enrollment, immigration, overrepresented racial minority, delayed enrollment in post-secondary education, first-generation college students, lack of standard high school diploma, adult learning needs, have dependents other than spouse, commuter students are single parents, experience work full-time while enrolled, financially independent of parent, low income, etc.
Now we talk about non-traditional students and their engagement in society.
Non-traditional students are engaged in various fields. For example, after securing their educational certificate, they may go for the communication field of work, environmental work, services and programs, cultural curriculum work. They can be people's person and be socially active or do social reform work, institutional commitment. Traditional or non-traditional, education is education. It doesn't matter in what form it is. It is education that is which makes a person stable in a society. A person without education is equivalent to an animal. And education is not just going to institution and gaining degrees, but to develop a perspective to life, living and society. Education is the backbone and the foundation to make a person face various difficulties or problems in his life and to be able to deal with it in an educated manner. The question is why we need education, that is traditional or non-traditional. It is just to stabilize and order people. It is sometimes said that illiterate people can be stabilized by giving a religion to them, and social people, in order to be behaving in an ordered and civilized manner, we need to educate people to give a person realize his goal and philosophy of life. Thank you.